Back to business, what we're doing today is a lesson on spelling. You will notice throughout this presentation, I did have a lot of examples of spelling errors. And if I don't comment on them, it doesn't mean that that I forgot about them or that I didn't do it on purpose, because I did. So you will see some errors in some of my slides, and that's okay, because I want you, as a good English, I guess, reader, writer, speller, to be able to pick out some of those errors. And maybe we'll do an assignment or something where you, how about that? Let's do an assignment where you write down all of the spelling errors you see in my slides. Okay, and those will be for participation points towards your participation mark. And I'll set up a Dropbox or something for you to put those in. So here we go. Spelling. So, oh gosh, when I look here, these are spelling rules in the English language. And doing a Google search on spelling rules, I've found like some sites have 90 rules for proper spelling in English, some have 28 rules for proper spelling. There's a lot of rules here. And if you've learned anything from me so far, you know that I'm not expecting you to remember all of the rules associated with the English language. So be aware, there are lots of spelling rules out there, but be even more aware that there are lots of tools to help you fix them. Gone are the days where we used to have spelling bees and everyone was expected to memorize a list of 10 spelling words every week. That is important, and it served a great purpose at the time. But now we need to know how to spell, also be able to convey our words properly, get our ideas on paper, and there are tools to help us fix our spelling if we need them. So one of the most common spelling rules that we are taught as we learn the English language is I before E except after C. So that is like when you're spelling peace, P-I-E-C-E, like a piece of cake. There are all kinds of words that follow those rules. Most of them do when we have E's and I's together. But as you know, there's exceptions to our English rules, and here's a perfect example. This one says, I before E except when you run a feisty heist on a weird beige foreign neighbor. So here in this one sentence are 6 rule breakers. So like I said, it's important to know the rules, but as you have learned already, in the English language, there are exceptions to the rules. So if you are a rule follower, like me, I follow the arrows when I'm in the grocery store, and I try not to pass other vehicles when there's a solid line. I like to follow the rules, and I like to know about the rules. There is a website I found that shares the 13 standout spelling rules you need to know. So, the top 13. I will not go through each one, but I will scroll down so you know that there are some rules that you can follow up on if you want to, spruce up your spelling yourself. This number 1 is something we also learn early on in our existence, and it is that the letter Q is followed by the letter U. Q and U almost always come together. It does say there are a few exceptions, but very few. Some other ones that I obviously or I apparently never think of, but they are rules. S never follows X. C makes two sounds. C makes the K sound or the S sound. Short vowels only need one vowel. Double the F, the L, and the S in one-syllable words. Drop the final E after a suffix, and the suffix is the ending, like something you add at the end. And we've learned this when we talked about present, future, past tense, and when we add the ing, we usually drop the E before we add ing to our base word. A prefix, opposite of a suffix, a prefix comes before the word, and this rule tells us to remove the L from all, remove an L from all when it's a prefix. So almost is not A-L-L-M-O-S-T, we just need one L. Prefixes don't change the spelling. Suffixes don't have to change the spelling. Contractions need apostrophes where letters are missing, which we do know after our lesson on contractions. Proper nouns must be capitalized. Specific names for persons, places, and things need to have capital letters. This is one I've never thought of before, but words do not end with V or J. They do tell us on here there are 25 words that end in V. I can't think of any right now. Maybe you can. So those are 13 rules that hopefully we know through experience, or you may want to brush up on some of those and check out some of the rules more in depth, or the exceptions to these rules. So here is a list of some commonly misspelled words. Do you see any on here that tend to trip you up? One that sometimes still gets me is definitely. One that we see often in, I guess, everyday life is a lot. A lot is two separate words, not one, A-L-O-T. So take a look at some of these and identify if there are any on here that you either have learned to correct in your own writing or that still cause you some issues sometimes. I will put this link in our learning plan, in our list of things to do. Take a couple minutes to test your spelling. This is beginner level, and it is just a multiple choice spelling quiz with some of those tricky words. So 15 questions. Take a couple minutes to do this and see how you fare out. Some people feel like they are terrible spellers. And if this applies to you, or even if you feel that you're not the best possible speller you could be, don't worry. There are some tips on how to improve your spelling. The first tip is to read, read, read. So the more you read, the better your spelling skills are going to be. the more you read, the more words you're going to be exposed to, the more patterns you're going to notice, and the better your spelling will be when it's your turn to put your thoughts and ideas on paper or on screen. The other thing you can do is you can make a list of your commonly misspelled words. So like those list of top commonly spelled words that I found, you can make your own. When you do that, you recognize that there's some things that are causing you issues, and you can determine why, and you can slowly make changes. Sometimes all it takes is a conscious effort on your part to recognize something's wrong and to have the determination to make it right. You can also use something like mnemonics. These are memory tricks or devices like that I before E except after C rule. Now there is a website here to find a list of 30 mnemonics that will help you with your spelling. It may be tough to see it through the video here, but I will put it in our additional resources section so you can check that out if you'd like. I told you that there are lots of tools to help you, and that's great, but please pay attention when you use the tools. If you use a spell check or a dictionary, when a word is being corrected or you see a blue underline, pay attention to the correct spelling. So what happens if you do pay attention to the correct spelling is hopefully if it happens a few times, you will learn the correct spelling and eventually you will never need the spell checker to find that word and make it right. You will do it automatically. Participate in spelling quizzes. So like I offered you that chance to do that spelling test, really 15 questions, it might take you 6 minutes. Do some of those for fun. I'd say there are lots of spelling quizzes available. There are also all kinds of word games and apps that you can do, download and use that will help with your spelling. I know my daughter was playing a bunch of spelling games that she could interact with her grandparents who were also playing the same spelling games. And it makes it more of a fun thing to do, and hopefully as you improve, it will make it a challenging thing for you to do. The last tip to improve your spelling is to write. So the more you write, the better your spelling skills are going to be. So the more time you spend putting your ideas on paper or corresponding with other people, the more you're using words and the more you are practicing your spelling or even using the tools and learning from those. Let's just take a second to read this message. How did you do? Were you able to decipher this code? This shows the power of our mind and that we can decode messages even though they're spelt incorrectly. Now, this is a good and bad thing. Good that we can identify errors and still our brain will process them correctly, but bad in that it encourages people to not necessarily care about their spelling, just kind of having the mindset that people can read it anyway. But your spelling is an indication of your commitment, your professionalism, and that you care about what you value and what you're writing and what other people think of your writing. So although our brains are smart enough to decode spelling errors, it doesn't mean you have to, get away with doing them. So when you're writing down the spelling errors that I've included in this slideshow, ignore this slide because I believe almost every word other than a few short words are incorrect. So when you're writing down the errors, ignore this section. Let's try this one. How did you do with that one? Once you got going, I'm sure you did fine. The toughest word probably is the second one. I think the intention, or I guess the intention was the phenomenal power of the human mind. Just that phenomenal isn't a word that we use often or see often or spell often, so sometimes that can trip us up. But I assume as you went along and read this, I guess we'll call it mixed up paragraph, your brain did sort these words out too. And again, it's the power of the human mind to be able to interpret errors even though they're there. Now, that being said, these errors are ones we can't ignore. To pass this in as a paragraph to a teacher or a business associate or a customer would be embarrassing. So even though our minds can decode, it doesn't mean we should not pay attention. Again, for the sake of your mini assignment on, identifying the errors in my slides, please don't use this one either because any word more than 3 letters is spelt incorrectly. So thank you for paying attention to my lesson on spelling. I hope to see near perfect spelling in all your correspondence going forward. Now, when you use those spell check tools and even grammar check tools, you also should use your brain because sometimes they don't catch everything or sometimes they do change words that are perfectly fine and don't need to be changed. Often though, your spell check works faster than your eyes and your brain, and they fix your mistakes without even you noticing. That's the beauty of these tools. They are intuitive and they feel like they know what you want to say and try and fix it before you even notice that there was a problem. As I said before, it's important to pay attention to your spelling errors so you can learn how to fix them on your own. So, as lovely and wonderful as these tools are, do remember that they're tools and you also need to use your own common sense and your own education and experience just in case these tools don't work at 100% accuracy, which sometimes they don't. Now, to finish off, I'll just remind you that I'm asking you to find my spelling errors, and there were 5 of them in pictures and titles. See what you find. Thank you. Have a nice rest of the day wherever you may be.